Welcome, Sushma. It's great to have you back again. I think this is your third year running that you've given up your time for us
I
to
think
speak
it
to
is,
our
and it's a
members.
pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me again.
It's always a pleasure to have you. So I am, right, just letting people in again. So did you want to introduce yourself and let everybody know
Yeah, I can do.
background?
Yeah, I can do. So I'm Sushma Kotecha, accredited family mediator, holistic life divorce coach, as well as a mind-body practitioner, ex-practicing family lawyer, and I'm also a divorcee myself. The mission here today is to advocate practicing a holistic divorce, and hopefully not just surviving divorce and separation, but thriving is the objective, right? Are you happy, Rena, for me just to sort of go straight in then, I guess, now? Yeah, after the
Yeah,
introduction.
please, if you can. Thank you.
So, I've confirmed who I am in terms of in the real 3D world. In addition to what I've just said, of course, I'm also a daughter, a sister, a mother, and as I said, a divorcee myself. But I do believe that there's more to us than just the physical aspect. And so my daily mantra is that I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, I'm spirit, I'm soul. And what I'm trying to do is plant seeds here to those that are participating to recognize that our thoughts are really powerful and they determine our feelings and our actions, and then of course the trajectory of our life. So there's neuroscience, science-backed evidence to confirm that all of this is not hocus pocus and woo-woo. We really do need to be very careful about what we wish for and how we think and show up in the world, because it's going to change, the way that we lead our lives moving forward. So today really it's an introduction to my book, Holistic Divorce. The strap line is shit happens, it's how you deal with it that counts, because we do know that in life a whole load of shit does happen, whether it's to do with marital issues or day-to-day problems. And the idea behind the book is to recognize that, divorce is difficult, it's traumatic, but it can also be transformative and life-changing in a positive way if we navigate it in a healthy and kind, compassionate way. My intention behind the book was to provide a tool and a resource which was going to be available to the majority of the population. So it's affordable. It's available through Amazon for less than £10, and you can download it for less than £4 on Kindle. So I recognise that not everybody can afford to have a lawyer, a divorce coach, a mediator. So this book is there effectively to act like your own personal coach if you're going through the divorce and separation journey. And as I've said, having been in your shoes, I fully appreciate and understand just how hard and difficult it is to be on this path. So, I'm curious, does anybody actually know what holistic divorce would be, or what would it entail to practice? Does anybody want to speak up to confirm, or should I go on to the next slide and reveal? No? All right, I'm gonna enlighten you. So in terms of holistic divorce, my definition of holistic divorce is an approach that's going to actually consider the mind, body, spirit, and soul of both the parties going through divorce and separation, as well as our children and the extended family members who are impacted by the divorce, right? So, typically when you hear lawyers talking about holistic practice, holistic, way forward in terms of dealing with your separation divorce, they would just be talking about trying to make sure that we take into account the impact on the family as a whole. But my definition goes beyond that. And the idea and the goal behind holistic divorce is to minimize conflict and to promote healing and growth. From my point of view, as I've said, we really need to reframe what divorce is and ideally see it as an opportunity to change our lives for the better. It focuses on finding solutions for all issues, not just for the benefit of the one. So if you go to a lawyer, typically they're going to be batting your corner and talking about what's going to serve you, individually. But this is actually looking at things in a completely different way, a new lens spec. So we're actually trying to see, what is the impact on the family as a whole. And focusing not just on legal rights and responsibilities, but also on softer topics like communication, boundary setting, etc. The holistic approach would often involve, and there'd be, I'd say, a strong encouragement to look at out-of-court dispute resolution options like mediation, and to have other support networks around you, like a coach, counselling or therapy, so that we can deal with the emotional, transition of the divorce and separation, to allow, as I said, for a healthy outcome moving forward. And the advantages, of course, of trying to practice a holistic divorce, a kind of compassionate divorce, is going to be that it's going to save you in terms of not only the emotional costs that a divorce would, it would incur, but most importantly, the emotional toll that it takes on us. And it's going to keep us in control of the outcomes, which I think is really, really important, as opposed to giving decision making to a bunch of magistrates or a district judge that doesn't know us. If you practice the holistic, kind of compassionate divorce, staying out of court and staying in control, that's going to bode well for us and our children. And most importantly, if you are parents, which I know that you will be on this community, it's going to allow for better co-parenting moving forwards. So this picture, I think, depicts quite nicely, my view of holistic. So that being the center of that icon there, and recognizing that, in terms of our being, our, personality, there is, all these aspects, our mind, body, spirit, and soul. So the mission here is to flip the script on divorce. It doesn't have to be so bitter, twisted, and toxic. And we can, if we choose to, have kinder, compassionate divorces. Now, I'm no fool. I know that this is not going to be suitable in every case. There are going to be some cases with real, difficult circumstances, for example, severe domestic abuse or coercive controlling behaviour, or significant welfare issues in relation to the children, where actually this may not be the right way forward, and the only way forward is going to be court proceedings. So I'm very mindful of that, but I say that probably 70% of cases can be undertaken on a kinder, compassionate way. And so it's important to recognise that separation is first and foremost an emotional journey. So it's not just a legal process. So when you go to lawyers, which is what you tend to do normally, although we are trying to advocate now to go to a mediator in the first instance, but most people still would go down the legal route. They are going to be looking at this as a legal process and legal journey, but we're trying to now advocate that actually, think about the fact that this is actually more of an emotional journey, and we need to make sure that clients, people like yourselves who are on this divorce and separation path, that actually have the tools and resources to manage the emotional side of the divorce, because that's really important. If you don't have that, you're going to get to the end of the legal process and probably collapse and won't know how to even get up off the floor. It's important. So as we're going through this, to think about counselling, therapy, and some of this, some of these tools and resources you don't even have to pay for. You can go online in terms of the practices that I'm going to talk about in a moment, which is, mindfulness, breath work, yoga, meditation. It's all there available for you to regulate your nervous system. Really important tools. And again, if I'm coaching clients and actually working with them as in a mediation forum, I would also advocate this, because when we're hijacked, as in emotionally hijacked, our brain can't think clearly, and we need to get to a state where we are, more calm and collected to make these life-changing decisions. So the book itself, as we've said, it's holistic divorce. Shit happens, it's how you deal with it. There are 3 parts to the book, and I'm just kind of going to quickly take you through those, and it's important to understand that. This book, as I said, is intended to be not read from cover to cover. It's not one of those books. As a holistic life coach, I meet my clients where they are on their divorce journey, and I'm helping them to craft a plan, to make consistent steps to change their life. And they could be anywhere on that divorce journey. Sometimes they're actually at the beginning, don't even know whether they want to go down the divorce route and what it is that they need, out of life. So we need to get clear, what is it that you want, to achieve. And it may actually be that there are problems in the marriage. It's not about divorce. It's about getting you off to counselling and therapy. So it's not about, me making decisions. It's giving you a safe, supported space where you'd be able to then reach your own understandings through, having a safe space to actually express your feelings and views. And so we can actually unpack where you are, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually along that journey. So this book is actually written on that basis, that you can actually tap into any of the sections wherever you're at and you'll be able to go in, and hopefully it will meet you where you're at in terms of giving you the tools and resources that you need. So part one, bracing for the storm. So this chapter really kind of initially sets out the stats in the UK. It's a sad fact that there are, in fact, 4 in every 10 marriages coming to an end, and I don't see that statistic going down. I think it might increase given where we are in the world at the moment. And it outlines the need for a holistic approach to divorce, as I just described. Our president of the family division, Sir Andrew McFarlane, top down is advocating to those that work within the field of divorce and separation that we should look at divorce in a holistic way. But as I've said, that definition is quite narrow. It's simply saying to the lawyers and professionals that work with divorcing and separating clients, don't just look after your client and back their corner, but really encourage them to think about the impact on any decisions they make on the other party and the family as a whole. Whereas I'm taking it back one step further and saying to everybody on this call that actually please also look at how it's impacting your mind, body, spirit and soul, so that we're looking after all these aspects of our beings to get through this, in the least self-destructive way, and actually come out of this and lead our best lives. So the first, part of that book is focusing on preparing you for a smooth divorce process, and emphasizes, as I said, the holistic approach, and addresses the emotional support and needs that you're going to have. Part 2, during the separation, from we to me, and I know all of you on this call will know just how difficult that transition is. Up until a certain point, we're a family unit, and all of a sudden we've got to transition from the family unit to me and flying solo, and that's extremely, extremely hard. And so the second part of the book, is guiding you on acknowledging and admitting that the marriage is over. Again, that's not easy, and it's giving you tools and strategies to recognize that, tools and strategies to deal with stress and anxiety. As I've said, really important to regulate our emotions and feelings so we can make clear, conscious, intentional decisions about how we want to move forward in our life. It's taking you through the legal process, all the dispute resolution options that you have, which I advocate where it's safe and suitable, as I've said, like mediation, collaborative law and arbitration. And it does talk about litigation because, as we've also acknowledged, that about 30% of cases are not going to be able to be sorted out in this kind and compassionate way because of the extenuating circumstances. So really, this part of the book is to the emotional side of the divorce, practical use of mediation and other professionals that are going to serve and support you as a team around you, in terms of therapy, coaching. And of course, it gives you the practical tools like parenting plans, which I'm sure that, many of you on this call would have come across, that helps you with the co-parenting. It empowers you, in any divorce situation to take control, and gives you all the knowledge that you'll need to make conscious decisions. And the final part of the book is after the divorce, the healing, chapters 11 to 17 for me are most important. And this section is discussing the challenges of adjusting to a new life after divorce. It's really, really difficult, again, managing your finance, your budgets, parenting, all of that is a minefield. So this book is going to sort of, set it all out for you in clear ways, giving you tools, resources, guidance on how to deal with, that transition and the healing and the growth. And then it's going to give you the emotional, support in terms of how to grieve a broken heart, a broken relationship, and self-care practices, as I've said at the outset, really, really important to just come back to ourselves and to give ourselves the kindness and compassion that we need to get through this and then to lead our best lives. As I said, for me, it's so important that the healing journey to try and actually lead our best lives moving forward. So that final part of the book is building a life of peace, joy, freedom after divorce, developing a healthy relationship with ourselves, so important, our children and our ex-spouse where it's safe and suitable. As I've said, it may not be, and in those cases, in some cases, there has to be a total severance of communication. I'm fully aware of that. And then we're exploring techniques, mindfulness techniques for emotional and healthy well-being. So overall, the book, as I said, is a companion for you to use as your, personal guide, as like having a personal coach. And certainly that's my intention. And the feedback that I've had through reviews on Amazon, reflect that the intention has actually played out. And so that's music to my ears when I get, great reviews. The book's going to benefit, all of you that are facing separation, divorce, but also therapists, lawyers, and other professionals within the field, so they understand that there is a new way of serving and supporting families. It's not just a focus on the legal rights and responsibilities, but it's actually encouraging a collaborative, approach, which actually is signposting clients to other, modalities of healing, as well as support in terms of counselling and therapy. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about the grief cycle. I don't know, does anybody know about the Kubler-Ross grief cycle here? If there is, please shout out. If not, I shall enlighten you. No. So when I experienced divorce and separation, I genuinely felt that going through this was like a living bereavement. And in my book, I've, coined that phrase, and I mentioned that we don't have the opportunity to have a burial or, last rites ceremony as you would do if we had an actual bereavement. And so Kubler-Ross was a scientist who actually carried out research on those that were on their deathbeds, with their families, and even those that were knew that they were going to be coming to the end of their life. And there was a recognition that when you're going through a grief cycle, it goes in stages. So denial, anger, hatred, depression, bargaining, acceptance. So all these are forms of emotions and feelings that you're going to go through. And it's not linear. So it's not like you're going to go from one to the acceptance stage and never go back. It's basically going to be like waves of cycles. And you could be going through this grief cycle for a number of years. From my own personal experience, I've been separated now for over 6 years. I occasionally still will have a bout of grief. For example, just coming home from last year's Christmas, there was this song that was played, and it was Islands in the Stream, which was mine and my ex-husband's song. And it drove me to tears because it brings back those memories of what could have, should have been. And I just allowed myself the space to feel those feelings and let them go, because it's really important for us to feel and process feelings and not hold on to them, because the body does hold the score. So my mind and body practitioner diploma, gave me the knowledge and the wisdom and the science to understand that we need to encourage those that are facing divorce and separation to feel their feelings and not hold on to them. Sadly, we're brought up, quite often keep the stiff upper lip, and to, put up and shut up. Well, actually, that's not how it should be. We should be encouraged to, feel our feelings and let go, whether that's in a therapeutic setting, with a coach, if indeed you've been through, the grief and you're ready to make change. Or sometimes it's not even through those professional settings, it may be with family and friends, which is how I dealt with my, grief process. Literally every other weekend, having made the decision to end the marriage, I was having a breakdown in a safe, supported environment with my family. And that allowed me to heal quicker. So it's important to understand that and to understand this grief cycle, because when you're going through divorce and separation, it's important to understand where the other party is on the grief cycle. So they may not be at acceptance stage. And if they're not, and you are, and they're still in denial or anger mode, they can't think clearly because the brain is hijacked. It cannot think through its, prefrontal cortex, where we make, more sensible decisions. So bear that in mind. So why is holistic divorce relevant to those that are here on the call today? I think, knowing that there's a potential and outcomes and less conflict is got to be, great knowledge to have today. And as I said, that's going to allow us to prioritise the family as a whole, and it allows for cooperative and collaborative approaches. It gets us out of that fight, flight, freeze mode. And this is what I'm talking about when I say that, our brain gets hijacked. So we get triggered emotionally, we cannot think clearly. And if we have the tools and resources to have that kind of compassionate, holistic divorce, to regulate our emotions and our nervous system, we're going to be able to sort of take a breath, take a pause, and then actually come back into the sessions, whether it's with your lawyers in mediation or wherever you're trying to reach resolutions, with a clear head and mindset that allows for, dialogue, which is going to be conducive to reaching resolutions that serve you all, as opposed to saying and doing things which you're going to later regret, right? So I think it's really important to have that knowledge. And as I said, the ability to know that we can help ourselves through simple tools. These are ancient tools and techniques, just coming back to the breath, recognizing if we can just, actually focus on our heart for a moment, all these simple things, it allows us just to take a pause, to take a breath, so we can, become more conscious of the steps that we're taking in terms of moving forward in our divorce and separation. And we're not just living in automatic pilot, which is how we do tend to lead our lives. So 95% of the time, most of us are not conscious. So the education here is to start to become more aware, catch, challenge, and change our thought patterns. Most of the time, what we think isn't even accurate. It's not even truthful. There's no evidence to back it up. It's based from fear. It's the base of lack of knowledge or knowing. So really important to recognize that we can change this. And, happy parents and fair outcomes, if you can work in this holistic, kind, compassionate way, is going to lead to happy children and less dysfunctional families, which is what I'm trying to advocate here. So children are resilient. The evidence shows that children can bounce back from separation, divorce. What they can't cope with and where there is severe adverse impact is when parents are in conflict. So that's one of the top 10 adverse childhood experiences. And if we can protect our children from conflict, it's the best thing we can do. So if you are in an unhappy relationship, actually, by trying to take the children out of that conflict environment and have 2 happy homes, it's going to bode really well for you and your children, and of course future generations. That's the key here. The key message is to try and be, kind and compassionate to ourselves, so that we have a positive impact, not only on our own emotional, psychological well-being, our exes, our children's, future generations. It's a trickle effect. So in terms of my philosophy on how to practice having a holistic divorce, and as you know, I come from a place of knowing, and what I'm going to advocate here, I also know it's not always easy, especially when it's just the start of divorce and it's just overwhelming. But these are some of the techniques and tools, or principles that I live by through my own experience. So always come from a place of kindness and compassion, not hatred, fear, and anger. As I said, I know it sounds impossible, but if you do the inner work, in a right setting, or you do your own education by reading, self-help books. As I said, you don't always have to pay for any of this. You don't have to go to a coach, you don't have to go to a lawyer. On my website, there's a resources page, which is a labor of love. So my website, in fact, was my first labor of love. The book is my second labor of love. So if you go onto the website, you see there's lots of tools and resources where you can empower yourself. You don't have to pay anybody for this information. And there's drop down menus for how to sort out a divorce, how to sort out child arrangements, how to sort out finances, holistic therapies, when there's severe domestic abuse, all these drop down menus. And I'm sharing that information with you now so that, when you have the time, we've got the inclination, you can empower yourselves by, hopefully considering those therapies as holistic therapies that you may never have thought about. And what resonates with you, you might want to experiment, and you might just be surprised at how powerful these, tools and techniques are. And so understanding, really important for us to come from a place of understanding, to seek to understand first before we seek to be understood. So when you're going through divorce and separation, try and put yourself in the other party's shoes and in our children's shoes. Think about their perspective and their plight. I know, again, that's not always easy, but if you can, it opens up possibilities for co-creating solutions that are going to serve you all moving forwards. And it's creative thinking. If you came to any sessions, whether it's with your lawyers, in mediation, in coaching, with a black and white thinking, a closed mindset, you're not going to move forward. So really important to try and open your mind up to other possibilities and resolutions. As we said, in the grief cycle, it's getting to the place of acceptance when the change happens, so when you can actually start to move forward. So acceptance and letting go, really, really important to allow us to move forward and let go of our past. Shit happens to the best of us, and we do have a choice on how we move forward. And hopefully some of the tools and resources that you're going to get from this session and, through the tools and resources on the website and in this book will allow you to make that change. Forgiveness, again, I know that it's not easy to forgive, and I'm not saying to forget, but if we can forgive, that's the golden ticket to break free from the bondage of the past and heal our wounds. So anybody who's faced trauma in, you know, any aspect of their life. Divorce is one type of trauma, but we all know of lots of, you know, really difficult traumas that people have experienced. The common thing they say, those people who have overcome that trauma and that grief, is the fact that they were able to forgive themselves and the perpetrators, right? So really important to try and do that if at all possible, so we're not kept, you know, hostage in the past. Love and joy, coming from a place of love and joy, so choose happiness over pain and suffering. You know, we all have a free will, we all have a choice. As I said at the outset, you know, our thoughts are very powerful, and once we start to change our thoughts, that's going to then change how we feel and show up in the world, and of course that has an impact on the action and the steps that we take. So I say, you know, choose joy over suffering. Of course, you've got to feel the pain, you've got to allow yourself some time to grieve, but, you know, be mindful of the time. You know, don't stay in that grief for years on end. You know, if it is that severe depression, you've got to go and seek help. You know, there are so many avenues there in terms of help, and you've just got to have the courage to ask for help, and you will find that there are so many people who want to help you. Again, it's not always paid for services. There's lots of charities that are helping when you're going through this type of grief and going through separation and divorce. Gratitude, self-love and respect. Again, you know, be kind, as I said, to yourself. Be grateful for all the small things. You know, practicing gratitude for me has had a profound impact on my own emotional, psychological well-being. I practice gratitude morning and night, and have been doing this now, you know, actually writing in a journal for the past year and a half, and it's had a profound positive impact on my emotional, psychological well-being. Just to be grateful for the things that we take for granted, you know, just for example, the sun rising and falling, you know, the wind on my face when I go for a walk, you know, Mother Nature, all these small things that we take for granted. If we can start to pay some gratitude and focus on the positive things in our life, it kind of changes the vibration and the energy that we're within, and it's going to attract more positive, you know, more higher frequency vibrations. And I say from my own experience, it will change the trajectory of your life if you can start, you know, practicing that and get yourself to a higher vibration through help and support. Finally, hope and faith. You know, trust the process. I know it's easier again said than done, but, you know that whatever happens in life, it does happen for a reason, and that, you know, this is a growth opportunity. It's changing the frame of how we're going to approach divorce and separation and all the challenges that we face, to, you know, looking at it as an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to become the best versions of ourselves, right? Knowing that also this too shall pass. This isn't when we're in a state of depression or, you know, fear or anger, and when we're in these kind of moods and emotions, we don't think this is ever going to pass. It's like a big thick cloud, you know, where, you know, and as I said, I've been there. You're on the floor, you don't feel that you're ever going to get up and out of this, but, you know, with the right support and help and mindset, you know, you will. I've supported thousands of families through this. I've been in this industry for 30 years, practiced as a divorce lawyer for 27 years, you know, been dual qualified as a mediator since 2010. And as of late, you know, a holistic life coach and mind body practitioner. So I know that this works. It's tried and tested, you know, not only personally, but with clients as well. And so the key takeaways about holistic divorce: Mahatma Gandhi, you know, he said, be the change you wish to see in the world. Really important to show up in the world in the way, you know, that we would like to see the change and how we'd like to be treated, right? So importance of reframing divorce as an opportunity for growth and change rather than failure. It's definitely not a failure, you know, to be brave enough to take this courageous step, you know, to acknowledge the marriage is at an end and to set up, you know, 2 happy households. You know, to me, it is actually a huge achievement. And so we do need to reframe what we're doing in life when it comes to divorce and separation. The importance I want you to take away of self-care and self-compassion in navigating the emotions, you know, and the practical challenges of divorce, because you'll get through this a lot more healthier and happier if you do. And the value of collaborating and cooperating, you know, co-creating with your ex, a new way of living, a new model of reality for you and your children moving forward. Really, really important than going straight down the adversarial route, which we're, you know, usually accustomed to do. You know, I'll take you to court, I'll take him or her, you know, for every penny. that's not the kind of attitude you really want to come to divorce and separation with, ideally, because then that's going to, you know, set you up in the wrong way. Of course, we want to have a fair and equitable outcome when it comes to sharing the financial assets and resources. And of course, we want to have arrangements in place for our children that's going to bode well for them. They have a healthy relationship with both sets of families, so long as it is safe and suitable. So that's a key takeaway from here. And then just recognizing the benefits of seeking holistic support. As I've said, I'm a huge advocate of counselling, therapy, you know, coaching and other modalities of, you know, self-care and self-help. So that's me. I've come to the end of this holistic approach to divorce and separation.